Hey, it's Kim from Arrows. Let's set up an onboarding dashboard inside HubSpot to track the health and status of our customer onboarding program. So to get started, this is kind of a quick overview of what this dashboard is going to look like. Before we dive into this, let's look at what data is actually feeding into this dashboard. So I've got an onboarding pipeline set up in HubSpot tickets. So you can see here, I've got my onboarding pipeline here, and these are representing all of our customers that are currently in onboarding. So we've got all of our different statuses set up to kind of track the progression of our customers through onboarding. And then we have our final stages for activated and then onboarding failed. And then this pipeline is kind of based on Arrows data. So this is an Arrows onboarding plan that someone would send to their customer, and it would kind of outline all of the steps in an onboarding process. And Arrows is feeding a bunch of data about what's happening in this onboarding plan into HubSpot. So you can see here we have this plan is associated to a ticket in HubSpot, and there's over 50 data points that we're syncing over to HubSpot about what's happening in the plan. So things like the Arrows target date, the plan status, how many overdue tasks they have, a bunch of different data points, basically anything that we have inside Arrows, we're syncing over to HubSpot so you can track how your customers are progressing. So all of that data is feeding into this ticket pipeline, which is then feeding into this reporting dashboard inside HubSpot. Okay, so let's get into each individual report and we can kind of look at what it's showing us. So first, we're looking at onboarding by status and start month. So we have different statuses, and this is showing active, complete, and failed. These are pulling in from Arrows as well. So we're tracking if everyone's completed all the tasks in their onboarding plan, that's a complete plan. You can track or mark a plan as failed, or if it's still in flight, it's active. So we can track this over the year. So you can see in January, we had 5 onboardings, 2 of them failed, 3 of them were completed. In August, all of our plans that were created then are still active. Now we can look at onboarding by health and stage. This one is a little bit trickier to set up because we're actually using a workflow inside HubSpot to set the health of our onboarding plans. But basically, we have stuck, progressing, and off track as the different health statuses of our onboarding plans. And then we're tracking those by the different stages that they're in our ticket pipeline. So we have the new onboarding account setup training go live. And so if we look at go live right now, we've got 4 customers that are progressing, which is great, and 1 customer that's stuck. So you can always click into this report and see which customer it is that's stuck, and then you can go and reach out to that customer, kind of give them a little bit more attention. Okay, moving on, we've got customers with overdue onboarding tasks. This is a great report to just have up so you can always see how many customers you have that have been stuck on an onboarding task for a while. So you can see we're pulling in data like the ticket owner, what is the current task due date, what's the current task name, who's it assigned to, and then how long have they been stuck on that task. Okay, these next 3 reports are my favorite and I think are the most critical to set up. So this is showing the average days to onboarding completion. This is the number 1 metric I would recommend you start tracking inside HubSpot for your onboarding program. So you can see here our current average days to onboarding completion is 19.6 days, which is great because you can see we've got a goal set here for it to be under 20 days. So anything getting beyond that is going to get into this kind of yellow zone. And then obviously if we're getting much beyond that, it gets into the orange and red zones here. So we can kind of quickly visualize how we're pacing against that goal we set. Okay, and then another big thing, we always talk about early momentum in the onboarding process at Arrows. A lot of times we see that customers drop off basically between sales and onboarding. So they're really excited during the sales process and then they drop off and it's really hard to get them going into the actual onboarding process. So getting them to complete the first few tasks in their onboarding plan is really critical. And a lot of times that includes scheduling a kickoff call. So you can track the average amount of days for your customers to actually schedule that kickoff call here. And then obviously you can track month over month to make sure that you're progressing and kind of making this even faster. Another thing is tracking over time the days to onboarding plan completion. So you can see here, this kind of ties into this report we were looking at earlier, where we're aiming for under 20 days for average onboarding plan completion. And you can see here, if we're looking month over month, January and February were much longer, but we're getting kind of doing better month over month. And in July, it looks like we've got 18.3 days on average, which is great. Okay, last 2 is more looking into your actual onboarding reps and how they're performing and kind of their workload. So this is tracking onboarding tickets closed by rep this year. So you can see here, this is me. I've onboarded 12 customers this year. 10 of them have been completed. 2 have been failed. So you can kind of see which onboarding reps are onboarding the most customers and how they're actually doing with their customers that they're onboarding. And then we also have onboarding by status and rep. So this is again tracking the different ticket statuses in your pipeline. And then basically like your in-flight plans showing who's kind of managing it. So you can see in our go live status in our pipeline, we've got Shrell managing 3 of those customers and Daniel managing 2. So you can see how many overall customers are in each stage of your pipeline and then which onboarding reps are actually managing those deals. Okay, super quick overview of the dashboard. I will go into separate videos to show how to set each of these up, but I wanted to give everyone an idea of kind of what's possible to set up inside HubSpot. These are fairly basic reports that can be set up and will give you a lot of insight into how your onboarding program is actually doing and how it's pacing and kind of tracking over time. Let me know if there's a specific report that you want to see in here. I'm happy to build it out and show you how to do that. This will be an ongoing series where we're kind of diving into each of these reports and showing you how to actually set them up inside your own HubSpot account.